Before dawn, drones overhead, entry teams stack on doors. And inside one apartment, a private USB that turned a street case into a map of a criminal enterprise. Color-coded divisions, coded promotions, and a money trail that hopped from Oakland to Nevada and Arizona. This is the story of Operation Deep Cut, how a raid aimed at 9 suspects exposed a prison-to-street architecture, and why prosecutors pivoted to racketeering charges to hit the hierarchy where it lives. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. 9 arrests sound local, so why did teams cover 6 blocks before sunrise, deploy drones overhead, and walk out with a single gold-labeled USB that pointed beyond Oakland? Because the neighborhood problems had a spine. On the surface, you had small crews, SAP and SSL 502, claiming corners and moving product. Behind them, Pelican Bay voices shaped the day. Shot callers set quotas and rules. Zone lieutenants kept the gears turning and passed orders down. Runners handled hand-to-hand moves, drops, and pickups. The roles didn't change. The names did. For months, the violence looked scattered. 2 murders in 2019, 3 attempted murders, and the usual narcotics and gun cases that stack up one arrest at a time. Surveillance broke that idea. Spotters rotated by time, not by corner. Couriers crossed blocks at fixed intervals. The same cars floated between stash houses, then vanished for hours, then reappeared at the same minute 3 days later.
Well, this multi-year investigation targeted members of 2 Sereno street gangs in Oakland, and residents were shocked when the FBI showed up. Shootings and drug and gun running. FBI agents converged on an apartment complex on Coloma Street near Fruitvale Avenue at 4 in the morning. The neighborhood jolted Wednesday by a pre-dawn raid by FBI agents. It was part of a federal racketeering crackdown of the Oakland Serenos gang that's been linked to homicide.
On paper, random. On video, synchronized. The pre-dawn stack showed what investigators were after. Armored vehicles rolled in dark. Teams split by address and hit on the same count. Doors went on the 3rd strike. Blast grenades cut through the confusion. Agents didn't only grab suspects, they stripped the system. Phones on chargers, radios on the same channel, printed slips with routing numbers, petty cash clipped by day, and that gold USB marked like a trophy instead of a tool. Inside the walls, the chain ran quiet. Prison phones seeded orders that looked like harmless talk. Commissary deposits signaled promotions and penalties. Encrypted chats did the rest. Tax was a fee for operating. Work meant product or a job to do. Green light carried weight that kept people in line without a public scene. Miss a payment and a deposit stopped. Hit a quota and a family member saw a boost. The code put pressure where it counted. That USB told the story in layers. On the surface were small transfers kept below reporting thresholds, names that looked like relatives or roommates, and notes that seemed like rent or tools.
And made at least 1 arrest. Agents also searched this pickup truck and an Infiniti. Oakland police were also there to block off the street. The FBI says they've linked 2 men, Carlos Ramiro Mendoza and Jeronimo Pablo Carrillo, to 2 shooting deaths of perceived rivals in Oakland 2 weeks apart. A woman who lives nearby did not want her face shown.
Well, I was really scared because, I've never heard anything like that before, especially around this neighborhood.
The mid-layer tied those trickles to shell companies with fake boards in Nevada, Arizona, and Washington, plus crypto ledgers split across mobile wallets. At the core sat the order network. Color-coded divisions labeled time and product, Silver Days, Black Dust, North Clouds, backed by a roster with arrows showing who answered to whom and when they could move. Resiliency showed up everywhere. If a lieutenant went down, the next name in column 3 already held standing orders for the week. The time blocks didn't change. Supply pickup stayed, drop time stayed. Only the key holder changed hands. The street kept moving while the court date went on a calendar. Follow the cash and you hit the wash. Prepaid crypto wallets fed into point-of-sale systems at laundromats. Pawn shop receipts matched wallet outflows. A few churches floated cash-heavy deposits that matched the ledger's silver days. Each flow bent twice before it settled in accounts tied to addresses in Nevada and Arizona. IRSCI flagged the crossings. The map matched the chats. By noon, the gym-turned staging area sagged with the output. Firearms, boxed and tagged. Narcotics in samples and precursors, sealed by hazmat. Stacks of cash by weekday. Phones by charger. And in the middle, that USB cracked open from the hidden volume and mirrored. What looked like neighborhood violence now read like a regional economy with a structure and a calendar, complete with promotions, penalties, and inventory notes. Once you see the blueprint, you stop treating the symptoms. Containment loses to a system built to replace parts. The next move aims at the enterprise, the lines, the ledgers, and the voices that keep the calendar moving. If police already had drugs and guns, why take on racketeering conspiracy and its higher burden of proof? Because the goal wasn't to stack charges. It was to prove an enterprise that thinks, orders, and profits as one system. That USB didn't just log transactions. It mapped a chain of command that held the neighborhood in a tight loop. To break it, prosecutors needed a charge that reached the people giving the orders, not just the ones carrying them out. Here's the frame they used. An enterprise means a structured group that conducts crimes for profit, with roles that persist even when faces change. It has continuity, a hierarchy, and a shared purpose.
For allegedly shooting his girlfriend in 2023 as she was sleeping with her young child. But now the stakes are even higher for these federal defendants. I've learned Pablo Carrillo, who's 41, is already in custody, charged by Alameda County prosecutors with murder and domestic violence.
Approach. They have been charged federally. They'll be doing federal time, and so it really is a serious matter.
That matters in court because it lets prosecutors connect separate events to a single decision-making body. The theory isn't abstract. It ties every act back to the same ladder. Who issued the directive, who enforced it, and who counted the money after. Traditional cases hit a few defendants at a time. The network swaps in new faces, shifts stash spots, and keeps earning. RICO asks for something harder: coordination, pattern, and purpose over time. That's the heavier lift. But if they prove it, the remedy runs top to bottom. The enterprise charge collapses the ladder by making the order itself the crime, so cutting off one rung doesn't save the rest. Violence sits at the center of that argument. 2 murders in 2019 and 3 attempted murders aren't random when they align with territory enforcement, internal discipline, and revenue protection. Prosecutors tie each act to a function. A shooting after a missed payment shows discipline. A hit tied to a boundary dispute shows territory enforcement. A near-fatal ambush on a defector protects revenue by keeping others in line. Each violent act holds a role that advances the enterprise's goals. The pattern piece needs continuity, not headlines. Narcotics distribution creates steady cash. Firearms trafficking arms enforcers and generates side profit. The violent acts keep the rules credible. The ledger and encrypted chats didn't just log dates. They showed schedule, language, and authority passing week to week. The same codes, the same approval windows, the same funnels for cash and product. That's how continuity looks when you strip out the names. Follow the money and the pattern hardens. IRS criminal investigation traced prepaid crypto wallets into laundromat point-of-sale devices, matched pawnshop payouts to wallet outflows, and tied church deposits to the same Silver Day entries. Shell companies in Nevada and Arizona received the cleaned flows. Those accounts didn't move like normal businesses. They pulsed on the same calendar as the chats, which means financial decisions matched enterprise directives. That link gives prosecutors a concrete bridge from messages to money. Timing mattered. The ledger carried an internal surveillance code that signaled a leak. Once a network suspects exposure, it morphs. Routes change, comms go dark, books get burned. That risk forced a tight window. Operation Deep Cut became a kinetic takedown paired with grand jury indictments, locking in evidence while the structure still matched the map. Speed here wasn't just tactical. It was legal preservation. Containment would have tolerated churn. Another arrest, another replacement, same orders. Dismantlement seizes assets, cuts the prison-to-street lines, and charges leaders for issuing directives that caused acts, not just the shooters for pulling triggers. That's a different kind of pressure. It targets bank accounts, commissary pipelines, proxy phones, and the authority system that signs off on violence and sales. RICO becomes the point of the spear by prosecuting the business model. That's the payoff. Not a night of crime, but the playbook that made money on schedule. With Phase 1 filed, the line of sight doesn't stop at Oakland. The ledger's routes pointed west and inland, and the same calendar ticks in cities that share the codes. The raid wasn't the finale. It exposed a scalable command economy built to grow, and RICO is the tool designed to cut through layers and target the leadership and the money that keep it running. That's why the focus shifted from scenes on one block to the system that financed every move. Watch for Phase 2 indictments tied to the same ledger routes, Los Angeles, San Diego, and other cities on that calendar, and demand clear answers on how prison communications are being hardened against control from inside. If the enterprise runs like a company, expect prosecutors to treat it like one by bankrupting the model and prosecuting the board.